All right, this is Mike McDonald with Web Pro News, and we are in Las Vegas for PubCon with Vanessa Fox.
Hi.
Hello, Vanessa. You have you've written a book. You are now an author.
Oh my gosh, I have, yeah.
Yeah. So give me some of the what's the book about? Give me a little overview.
Sure.
And it's not out yet, right?
It's not out.
Okay.
So it's called Marketing in the Age of Google. And it is available for pre-order on Amazon.com. Maybe we could put the URL right here.
I can probably make that happen.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's actually not a technical SEO book. It doesn't really dive into the details. It's much more about high-level strategy. I think that the primary audience is probably going to be non-search people. So, anyone at these conferences, SEOs, who are looking to explain to their clients or potential clients why search is so important, this might be a book to give to them.
It's a good Christmas idea.
Good Christmas idea, right? Exactly. So basically it talks about high-level strategy of why search is important, how search can be incorporated into every part of your normal business process, and then how to use search to help drive your business strategy and your product strategy. So there's a lot of search data. So to dive back a little bit, I focus primarily on organic search. I feel like there are a lot of strategic books out there now about paid search and other types of advertising, online advertising, how it works together. But organic search, there's just not a lot out there yet about sort of high-level strategy for this non-search audience.
Okay. So these guys that are reading the book, your target audience, I guess, with the book, what are some of their biggest misconceptions or misunderstandings about organic search specifically?
Well, I think one thing is that they just don't even realize that they need to do anything to make search work, right? They just assume that Google works, search works, and that there's not really a need for SEO firms or people that really understand what they're doing, which of course isn't true at all. And the point I make in the book is that you really need to understand the landscape that you're operating in. If you were to open a store, like a retail location, you would want to scout out the location, make sure that it's good, understand the traffic patterns. And so the same is true online, right? That you need to understand that all of your customers are online. Whether you have an online store or an offline store, like your customers are online either way, right? And so understanding user behavior online, searcher behavior, I go a lot into sort of searcher behavior stats and how people operate online and how they look for information, and so kind of understanding that becomes really vital, I think, to your long-term business strategy.
Well, we're seeing stuff like local search and maps and things like that. You don't even really need to have a website to have a local presence or a presence in search engines now. So you have a large spectrum, I guess, of businesses that maybe had not even considered search as a, I don't really have a big website. I just have my phone number and my address up there. Why do I need to worry about search?
Right, yeah, because people are used to being able to buy an ad in the Yellow Pages or something, right? But people don't really look at the Yellow Pages anymore, right? They go to search. And that type of thing, like you're saying, is becoming more and more common. So yeah, even if you don't really have a website or think you need a website, you need to have some kind of presence online. So yeah, I talk about that. I talk about just using all of the search data available for product strategy, usability, market research, all that kind of thing. There's a whole section in there on the integration between search and social media, sort of how those work together. And then there's a whole set of things on integrating search into your overall business processes, so the best way to incorporate it into marketing and to product management and development. And so I think starting to build search best practices into all parts of the organization is really going to be how businesses are going to evolve.
Now, search and social media is interesting because I've heard people talk about social media maybe like 3 times, 4 times at least this week. I mean, it's going around a little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, I've seen that. But it's really an emerging kind of relationship there with search and social. So in your book, I guess, or when you're talking to people about developing a strategy that encompasses search and social and takes that into account. How do you, it's such an emerging, evolving, changing thing. How do you start with that?
So I think there's a couple of things there. One is I think social media is just interesting. I think businesses are starting to see that they need to be involved in social media. And I think if you go back to the early days of the web, there was a point at which businesses realized they needed a website, right? There was this whole set of period where people were like, oh, we don't need a website, whatever. Now, everyone sort of at this point realizes that they need a website. That sort of happened. And then at some point now is sort of the time that people realize, oh, we need to get involved in social media. I feel like search was skipped a little because there was nothing actively people had to do. Like you had to actively build a website and you have to actively be involved in social media. So this whole search thing was missing. So there's sort of that sort of understanding how to sort of roll back a little and incorporate that. But then just from, a social media search integration perspective, in the book in particular, I talk about the correlations, and the types of things that I talk about, for instance, are you get really involved in a topic in social media, then when someone does a search even a year down the road, they're not only going to find your website, but they're going to find that discussion, and so you can have a lot more to say online that people can find. So you can be much more visible, have your point of view out there, respond to issues, and it's going to show up in search, later.
Right.
So,
if nothing else, on the very basic level, it's just another way to be found, I guess, right?
Right, absolutely, right. Yeah. And it's another way to get a lot of data. There's a ton of data that's available, and that's very immediate data. And so there's lots of ways that they can work together. Another big thing that I talk about in the book is just sort of how to get started, because businesses, I think, are very hesitant to get started.
Right.
And I spoke a couple weeks ago. I gave a keynote at a risk management conference for internal auditors.
Sounds like a hoot.
Yeah, it was great, and but it was all about sort of understanding the legal and HR and those kinds of implications of being involved in social media. And what I told them was yes, it's a risk to get involved. There's a lot of things that could go wrong, but you have to weigh that against the risk of not getting involved. And a lot more things can go wrong, generally speaking, if you don't get involved, because people are out there talking about you already.
Right. Even if you're not talking about your brand, somebody else is probably.
And you're missing all of these opportunities to, have this visibility. So if you think about the risks of not being involved, it tends to far outweigh the risks of being involved. So in the book, I go through sort of ways to get involved where it's not so scary, and some guidelines that you can think about. And, honestly, most companies should at this point have guidelines anyway for their employees in terms of what you're allowed to talk about and not talk about, and, how you would want your brand represented, even if someone was at Starbucks or,
right.
The fact that it's online and social media just means that it may be easier for people to find.
And it may stay there forever and ever.
Stay there forever, but it really doesn't change the types of policies that you're going to have people do, right? And so, and the other thing too is that a lot of people at an organization are already equipped for some of these things, right? Like your PR people already understand how to talk about your brand. They just may not know social media. So there's ways you can sort of ease into it in ways that might make you feel a little bit better. But ultimately, it's very high level things to think about. I'm hoping that search marketers can probably benefit some from the search behavior data, some of the searcher personas. There's not really a lot out there right now on how to build a searcher persona. But beyond that, I'm hoping that it just helps companies understand why it's important to engage with search marketers. So.
Well, it'll help marketers explain things to their clients, maybe,
Right. Yeah.
Well, Vanessa, thank you very much for taking time to talk to us. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
This is Mike McDonald with Web Pro News, and we are in Las Vegas for PubCon.